Welcome back, everyone. This is the ninth episode of my journey towards the champion. Now, in this episode, we are going to be taking a look at my round 9 game from Aeroflot Open 2025. Now, in the ninth round, I was playing with the black pieces against Yadegar Radin, who is a 2400 FIDE master from Iran. So let's hop right into the game. He starts the game with pawn to d4. I go pawn to e6, inviting white into the French defense. If white would go e4, I would go d5, and this is the French defense. But white plays pawn to c4. We get pawn to d5, knight f3, knight f6. White plays g3. This is called the Catalan opening for white. I go bishop to b4 check. He plays bishop d2. I come back to e7. Goes bishop g2, castle, c6, queen c2, knight bd7. This line is known to be as a kind of solid line. Black continues in some cases with pawn to b6, bishop b7, or bishop a6 even, or pawn to a5, as I played in the game. This is like a very solid variation. If you want to play solid chess with black against the Catalan, I suggest you to play this variation. So he goes bishop to f4, I go pawn to a5, kind of trying to take space here on the queen side. He goes rook d1, I go a4, taking space on the queen side. He goes a3, stopping my pawn from advancing further. I go knight e4, which is a kind of typical idea in these uh, types of positions, to make an outpost on e4 for the knight. Maybe trying to push pawns here on the king side with pawn to f5, maybe pawn to g5 even, trying to create an attack here. So he goes h4, kind of prophylactical move against pawn to g5. I go h6, regaining the opportunity to go pawn to g5. He goes knight c3. I go g5, maybe f5 was a little bit better, but whatever. g5, bishop e3, f5, takes. He goes queen c1, attacking this pawn on g5 with the queen and the bishop. I go knight takes c3, he takes. I go g4. He hops in with knight to e5. I take, he takes. I go b5. We trade the pawns. He comes in with the bishop, attacking my rook on f8. I go rook f7. He opens up the position with pawn to e4. I take, he takes. Now I can't take on e4 because my queen would be hanging on d8. He would just pick it up. So I go queen b6. He goes bishop to e3. I go queen to c6. He goes back with the bishop to g2. I go rook g7, kind of just solidifying the rook and the king, because one idea that white has in this position is to trade the bishops with bishop g5. So I eliminate that idea with rook to g7. He goes queen b1. Maybe rook d4 was better for him than queen b1, with the idea of queen d1 and take the pawn on g4. So he goes queen b1 instead. I go bishop d7. He goes rook d4. Bishop c5. We get bishop h6, counter-attacking my rook. I take on d4. He takes d4. Now I'm up in exchange for some time, but if I would move my rook, for example, to f7, he would just come in with the queen to g6 check, king h8, and just pick up my rook. And if I do something like rook e7, he would just give a check, king h8, and bishop g5, with a devastating attack here, winning the game for white. So I go in with my queen with queen c3. He takes on g7. I take on g7, queen d1, attacking the pawn on g4 here. I go king f7, kind of uh, protecting the pawn. So now that if he takes it, it would no longer come with the check. So I will take his rook. So he goes rook a2, going away with the rook. I go rook g8, protecting the pawn. He goes bishop f1. I push my pawn to b4. This is a slight mistake. Better for me would have been queen f3. So now that if he takes queen takes f3, I take on f3 with the pawn. And now some ideas of rook g4, trying to attack the pawn on d4 would arise. And if he does something like queen c2, I would go rook h8 with some checkmate ideas already for black. So there will be some counterplay for me. But I make a mistake with pawn to b4. He goes rook to c2, queen b3, queen c1, I take on a3. He goes in with the rook, rook c7. I go king e8. He goes queen c5. This is a mistake. Better for him would have been to come for my king the other way around with queen to h6, trying to kind of give some checks with queen h5 maybe, or queen h7 even, maybe queen f6 also, and rook a7. So a lot of ideas would rise after queen h6, but he plays queen to c5. I go rook g7, kind of overprotecting the bishop on d7. He goes queen a5 with the idea of queen a8 check. I go rook e7. So now that I could go king f7, because if I would go e2, for example, he would give a check on a8, and if king f7, he would just pick up my bishop with check. And if king e7, then something like queen c8 would just be over for black. So that's why I go rook e7, to give space for my king. He goes queen a8 check, I go king f7, queen h8, and now I blunder with pawn to a2. Saving the game for me would have been queen to b6, kind of attacking the rook and giving it no squares to go to on the 7th rank. So now it's an equal position, but I blunder with pawn to a2. He gives a check with queen h7, I go king f8, we repeat, goes queen f6 check, I go king e8, and now he makes the final mistake of the game. He goes queen h8 check, which allows a threefold repetition after king f7, which I claimed. Winning for him would have been rook to a7 with the idea of rook a8 check, and for example, if I make a queen with a1 queen, he would just go rook a8 check, bishop c8, rook takes c8, king d7, and I think queen f8 will just be game over for black, or maybe even rook a8, bishop c8, queen h8 is also possible. I mean, it's just completely dead lost for black in this position. But he missed the idea of rook e7. He goes queen h8 check, allowing king f7 with a threefold repetition. And there is a rule in chess that if a position repeats 3 times, you can claim it to the arbiter, and the game will end in a draw if the position repeats 3 times. Yeah, so this was a kind of lucky escape, as you can say, and yeah, This was the last round of Aeroflot Open 2025. Um, I lost some rating, but overall, it's not a bad tournament. Uh, I would not say I'm particularly happy with the result, but I mean, it is what it is. So, yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you all in the next video.